right, so good afternoon, folks, and happy belated Halloween here. We are on Sunday, November 1st. We're kicking off a new month and the upcoming election week in the stock market, which should be pretty interesting just in terms of volatility, right? We're already seeing the stock market pull back a good bit. And on top of that, we have a lot of these names reporting earnings and pulling back even on strong earnings. So we could get a couple of unique opportunities here, okay? Normally every Sunday what we do is we go over trend and trade setups, right? Basically momentum setups that we're looking for and what prices we're looking for in the upcoming week. Today we're gonna do things a little bit differently. We are gonna talk about two different stocks, right? As well as the NASDAQ. So these are the ones that we're gonna discuss. NASDAQ for the futures ticker, okay? CGC for a pot stock, FSLR for a solar play, okay? And then as a little bit of a different video, we're gonna talk about long-term holds briefly. And I know a lot of you guys, just focus on the short term, which is great, but as an investor, we're doing this to build our wealth, right? So a lot of the money that I make in trading, I actually transfer out to my long-term portfolio and use that as my basic wealth building exercise, right? That's what I do on a regular basis. So we are going to talk about a couple of long-term holds that I'm looking to buy more of or add in the first place to my positions, and what prices I want from those. Okay, we'll talk about that concept a lot. That could be its own YouTube video, to be honest, but I want to prepare you a little bit more for the active trading here for the upcoming week. Okay, so first things first, markets pulled back this week. Everybody pretend to be surprised, right? We have a huge election with an uncertain outcome. Markets don't like uncertainty. That's, 101 right here. But basically the NASDAQ pulled back 2 days pretty aggressively. This is the NASDAQ futures chart on the daily, right? Futures are a little bit more complex, but to be honest, the ETFs aren't really that much different. Okay, so the NASDAQ chart here showing a bigger pullback on Wednesday and then a big drop on Friday, ended up going down 5-6% on the week. Okay, so a little bit of cause for concern, right? But again, pretty normal ahead of an election. Now, the interesting part is that we lost a couple of bigger key levels this week. One, we lost a lot of support in the 11,500s. Okay, you can see I got a ton of key levels on this chart because I'm fully prepared. So moving averages and a historical key level, the 11,500s. And number two, we lost the prior week's low, which is a very basic way of analyzing a chart. But if we take it to the weekly, right, you could see that we had a lot of sell pressure 2 weeks back, right? Could not follow through to the upside. After that, a small down week followed by a big down week. Now, again, not really all that concerning, but all you have to know is that this was a bearish weekly candle ahead of an election. Okay. Now, just to give you guys an idea, I'm still looking for a move lower just because that's the trend right now. We have no signs of a trend reversal yet. So until we start seeing a base, until we start seeing a very positive reaction to a key level, we're not going to start mapping areas overhead. Okay. And again, this has nothing to do with, my thesis is actually that we'll sell off for maximum another month and a half. And then we start bouncing back. And it could be a lot shorter than that. So it has nothing to do with that thesis. We're just looking for price-to-price trades here, okay? Now, the way I drew my key levels for this week is a little bit back to what we were doing about 3-4 months ago when we had a lot more range. Because if you guys look, this was tight range for a few weeks. So I drew my key levels a little bit more differently. But basically what I did is I took this week's candle, okay, and I drew fibs from high to low. Okay, so that's just left to right, high to low. So your exact levels are drawn from 11,695.5 down to this week's low, which is 10,944.5. Okay, that should give you your key levels overhead for the upcoming week. Now, in terms of levels below, because that's what I really want to talk about, we have the next target being 10,767.25. That is a crazy, crazy number, so make sure you actually draw it up if you haven't. And then the big one that I'm looking for is 10,742. This is a very big key level. It bounced us last time, right? If you can actually see it on this weekly chart, that was the low of this really high volume candle. And then we defended it the next week and rallied big time. Okay, so that was from the most recent pullback from just about a month and a half ago. All right, so these are the levels below that go with the trend. That means they're actually pretty likely to hit. Let me zoom this into the daily again so you can see. So this is the Friday candle. All right, you can see all the levels nearby there, but the two targets below are these two, right here and here, and they're very close to one another. Okay, now the levels nearby, right, very close to price, just to give you an idea, 10,000, sorry, that's incorrect. 11,087.75. All right. And then the one above that is just above, but I'm just going to leave it at that for now. You know, I actually just want to map out one key level that's below here, because if you draw your fibs like I told you to, you'll see the levels above, right? Those little orange lines. I'll zoom it in a little bit more to the hourly. Okay, this is the nearby level, and then these orange lines are just the fibs that I told you guys to draw at the start of the video. So if you didn't draw those, pause it, right? Go back and draw the fibs and you'll get the overhead levels here. Okay, and then obviously the Friday low is the nearest support. So resistance, Friday low is support. Okay, that's at, let me actually rewrite these here. 10,944.5. Again, if you draw your fibs, it'll automatically be there. And then 11,088.75. Sorry, 87.75. You can see that these are just such funky numbers, numbers that we haven't seen in a while here. So make sure that you have them all up. These are the four nearby levels technically, right? Nearby, nearby, target, target. Okay, so if this cracks, if this guy right here cracks, then you're looking for a deeper move down here. That's about 200, what is that? Yeah, about 200 points, 180. Okay, 180 points on the NASDAQ. All right, that's the downside risk. That's the first target for this week. Now, since we've got the NASDAQ covered, we're looking for a move slightly lower, right, with that trend. Let's talk about the more exciting stuff. Let's talk about the election a little bit, because to be honest, I had a hard time this past trading week. And I think a lot of that was because I was focused more on day-to-day movement than I was on the bigger picture, right? And that's kind of one of the bigger takeaways going into this week. Yes, you should be hitting the reset button every day. But as long as you're managing risk, as long as you're focusing on the bigger time frames, you should be good, okay? Now, speaking of day-to-day, briefly, I want to show you guys what a bumpy ride this week's going to be. Monday, let me just drag this little sticky note over. It's in small text, but you guys get the gist. Monday, we have the ISM data, okay? Not a huge deal, but with how the markets are trading now, any one of these data releases could lead to enough range to take a trade, okay? Tuesday, we have the actual election itself. Now, just to kind of make sure that I really get this point across, do not let the election outcome influence your emotion when you're trading, because right now, you know, obviously the US is in a really tough spot in the sense that people are so extreme on both sides. If your favorite candidate doesn't win, or if you don't give a damn about the election, just numb, right? Just numb yourself to that news and trade price. Okay, do not let the election get you all riled up. Okay, it's probably not going to be a one-day event. They're probably going to take even up to a week to count all the results. So get used to that uncertainty, those random headlines, that volatility. There will be plenty of them. Okay, swing traders, I'm looking at you. Wednesday, we have the ADP and ISM data again, right? That's ISM services. Monday is manufacturing. Thursday, a Federal Reserve decision, which they're probably not going to touch the rate at all. Okay, it's going to stay unchanged. Jobless claims as well, as if we need more data releases. And then Friday, to top it all off, we have the non-farm payrolls, which is a huge data release, arguably the biggest one of that week. So Tuesday, Thursday, Friday should be wild in terms of range. And that means what you need to do for active trading is pick a couple of tickers that you want to watch and just focus on them. Okay. Now, a couple that I'll be looking at for election outcomes this week, CGC and FSLR, which I mentioned briefly. CGC is a standard pot stock. Okay. FSLR is a solar stock that recently beat earnings expectations. If you don't like FSLR, another good one is JKS, just for range. Okay, not saying bullish or bearish, but just for range. Now, CGC is actually going to be my Biden play, right? If Biden wins, this is a stock I'm looking for a pop-up on. If Biden loses, I'm actually looking to short solar stocks, as ridiculous as that sounds. So if Trump takes the cake, that's going to be one of my go-to plays for the short side, right? Whether it's common stock, whether you're buying puts, whatever. The solar stocks have ran up so much lately that I recognize it. I realize they could easily move higher if Biden won, but that creates a lot more downside if Trump takes the cake. Okay, and again, polls, as irrelevant as they are pretty close. So still some uncertainty here. All right. Now, the CGC chart is actually really simple. It's a very similar one that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. But basically, we had a run up into the low 20s. Okay, this is just the daily chart. Again, we had a run up into the low 20s, specifically 20.13. Okay, then we retested it ahead of the most recent debate, got rejected, broke it, but didn't really create a lot of distance, and then got rejected again and ended up coming back to the 20-day. So CGC, I'm actually looking at two key areas here. One is the 20-day SMA, which is just below. Okay. Number two is that level at 20.13. And I'm not saying that in terms of a breakout, right? I'm not looking to play a breakout here. I'm looking to get in early for a move back up to that zone. Okay, so full transparency, I do have a little size in CGC. It's not a big one, just as a speculation play, okay, because currently Biden is ahead. But either way, these are the two key levels that I'm looking at for an actual trade setup. If it defends this, we should be able to go back up to that level. Okay, so for CGC, although it's not 1,000% upside, I'm looking for a magnet to 20.13 this week. Okay, I'll say that again. I'm looking for a magnet up to 20.13. Also worth noting, if we're going to write out all the key levels here, yes, we have the 20-day as support below. We also have 1949 as a very big resistance level. Okay, that's going to be the first target. That's the final one. And then if we get the full-on breakout, there is a fib at 20.86. Okay, a Fibonacci resistance level. All right, so CGC, these are the two levels I'm most focused on right here. All right, but you do have to annotate the other ones. Okay, pot stocks should get a little bit of pull here if Biden wins. Sorry, pull is not the correct word. Should get a push. All right, now FSLR had a really good quarter, but keep in mind what we're focused on is price here. Because we had the monthly candles close out, and again, we could really just spend however much time we want on any one of these concepts, but because we had the monthly candles close out within the past week, I actually updated my fibs. You can see how clean this chart is. There's not a lot of noise. I updated my fibs on that monthly candle. So I just switched it to the monthly time frame. Okay, that means this candle represents October. See all the volume and price range concentrated in this candle, right, throughout that time period. That's why I elected to draw the fibs on that. Okay, so basically you draw your fib since it's green from low to high. All right, that is from 66.71 to 97.93. All right, and that gives you the nearby levels. Again, if you need a posit to draw these fibs up, by all means do that. Okay, what that tells us, and it actually is perfect. You can see how much these fibs work in real time. But what that tells us is that this is the make or break support level for FSLR. So let's say that Trump wins, right? Because I told you guys I'm going to be watching solar stocks on the short side if Trump wins. If that's the case, 82 point, I think that's 32. I'm having trouble seeing it. Yeah, 82.32 is the big support here. And if that cracks, we drop down to targets 78.64 and 75, which is the 50 SMA. Okay, so that's here and here as the targets if that were to crack. Okay, if it keeps defending it, that's great, but I'll wait for the election outcome to, progress a little bit before I, even consider buying it. Okay, but those would be the short targets below. And that's pretty good because this is just under $80. So that means if you don't actually short common stock, you can trade the 80 puts, right? And then this is just around 75, so you can consider the 75 puts. But again, that's only if that level at 82.32 breaks. Okay, now on to the fun stuff, right? Because we talked about something long if Biden wins, something short if Trump wins. Let's talk about long-term holdings. I mentioned this briefly, but the way that I sort my income, I'm not telling you that this is how you have to do it, but when I get to a certain amount in my day trading portfolio, specifically it's 100K, but when I get up to that amount, right, day trading, I wire that money out so that I have realized gains, right? It's actually mine, it's not in the brokerage, into my long-term portfolio, okay? And this has been a big money maker for me within the past 10 years, specifically within the past 5, because we've gotten a lot of market corrections. So I've been able to buy the dip on multiple occasions. We nailed the low in March, and I'm not looking to nail a low this time around. I'm looking to size in. So what I'm doing, and I suggest you guys consider doing this, I'm picking my favorite stocks, okay? And I'm picking prices to size in. So you pick your favorites, that's step 1. Step 2, you set a price alert. In Thinkorswim, which is the platform that you're using, or that I'm using, sorry, you can right click the chart and just hit create alert and then wait for that price to hit. Okay, simple as that. And number 3, and this is the important one, you have to size. Okay, you cannot just throw on a full position size right off the bat. Realistically, you should be adding a fraction of a full size each time it hits one of your price alerts. So let's go for an example here, because I want to fully explain this and do it kind of quickly. But first ticker that I wanted to bring up is Target. Target, I'm not going to, give a rundown for every single ticker, but Target is a company that's taken a lot of market share from Walmart, great fundamentals, outstanding business model, right? You can't really argue with that. And frankly, it's been on a tear lately, right? It went from 90 to 160 after April, which is pretty incredible. Now, the fibs aren't drawn up here because I want to keep this simple. I kept them up for a couple of plays, but basically for Target, I've set an alert at 145.45, which is where I would like to start sizing in. And for this stock, since I already hold some long-term from the double digits, right, I'm going to be adding 1/3 sizes, right? So let's say my average long-term hold is, $3,000. Okay, let's take a smaller number here. Let's go with $3,000. If that's the case, I would buy 1,000 worth of Target every single time it comes down to one of the prices that I have predefined. Okay, let's say this is not the next price that I want. That's the first price, but let's say that I set a price alert for 126. Okay, that means that the next time it drops down to 126, I would add another 1K worth, etc., etc. So the tickers that I'm looking at, just to knock this out of the park real quick, Target, Microsoft, Apple, and Visa for large caps. Okay, there are 2 smaller stocks that I'll get to at the end of this that I'm looking to build sizes in, but for now, these are the 4 that I've set alerts for. So Target, 145. Okay, Microsoft, don't even need to explain why I want to buy more of this long term. This was my biggest position for 3 years in a row, and this was the first year it has moved down in the ranks, right? I've sized into other tickers more, which has benefited me. But either way, for Microsoft, I set a price alert for 126. That should be 25, actually. Should be a little bit higher. Let me just right click it. 196. I think I said 126. Might have misspoken. But 196.25. And that's where I'm going to start adding back half sizes for Microsoft. Okay, so Target was 1/3 at 145. Microsoft half at 196. And let's keep going down the list. Apple, I know they missed on the iPhone sales, so I'm actually going to be a little bit more patient with this one. Considering adding a small size, it depends on how the markets are behaving, but considering adding a small size at 105.58 at that fib, and then just under 96. And that's where I'll try to build a full size. Okay. I had a full size in Apple before the split, way before the split, from about 2 years ago. And I sold all of it, but like 20 shares up here. Okay. Up at like 127 or so. So I missed 10 points of the move, but still a really solid investment. Now I'm looking to add more size here. Okay. Those are the two levels. And you can see I already have the price alert set. And then the last large cap is Visa, which, to be honest, has been one of my worst performers this year. Pays a half decent dividend. It's not that great. But basically, Visa reported another solid quarter and sold off with the markets. So I am waiting for this next fib. That's a 50% retrace from this big drop off. Okay, a little bit more advanced, but it's at 174 basically. Okay, if you want the exact level, you can just see it on the chart, 174.05. All right, and I'm looking to add a half size on this one. Okay, now the last two tickers are EFOI, which is a really good long-term play and growth stock. I removed all the recent fibs for this one to kind of keep it simple, right? But I started adding a little bit of size in the mid sixes. If it comes down in the low fives, I will throw on a full size. Okay, there's some really good due diligence on social media. Actually, one of the guys in chat, Greg P, he brought this to the table, and he brings all of these small cap winners to the table regularly. He's one of our hardest hitters in chat for long-term plays, kind of intermediate to long-term. And he loves this stock. You know, he's been pitching it for some time. We cashed out big time on that news, but have been looking to reload. So gonna start sizing in as it keeps dropping. I already added a little lot here in the mid sixes, and then I intend to add more in the low fives if it keeps pulling back. Okay. And actually, let me set the alert now because I thought I had this set, but I guess I did not. All right. And then the last ticker is BE, which is more of a hype play, but there's a ton of support on BE at about 1140 and then down at 1080. Okay. This one had a huge run up, and it's one of those plays where you don't need a lot of size to make money. Solid earnings, solid company. Just looking to play the hype here if it can come down a little bit lower. So this one's, you know, a lot more likely to hit that area within a week or two. So this is one that you have to set the alert for now. Okay, no procrastinating. All right, so we did things a little bit differently in this video. I want to mention that these are the tickers that I like. The point of this video is for you to select some tickers that you like and actually put the time in this weekend or Monday, right? Shouldn't procrastinate, but try to put it in early to set what prices you want from them to start sizing in. Whether it's for swing trades or whether it's for long-term, I highly recommend that you guys do that, okay? My long-term portfolio has been a big winner over the past couple of years. I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. I'm nothing special, right? But that's where a lot of the money is to be made over the course of the next couple of weeks. It's not just gonna be trading, you know, the election results or plain volatility, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about getting good prices for the stocks that we want to hold, okay? And again, we did briefly talk about pot stocks and solar to trade during the election, okay? So if you like the video, like and subscribe to the channel, right? Well, like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't yet, we do have a free week trial in the Trade with Text chat. So we have the $50 a month membership, right? Which obviously is well worth it because we have screen share and audio all day. But if you just want to test it out, dip your toe in the water, come on for the free week, right? TradeWithText.com. Okay. Anyways, guys, good luck throughout the election week. Hopefully it's just 1 week and then we can get back to normal, and try to stay safe. All right. It's going to be a crazy market. Good luck, folks.